So what happened to my friends? So we're in the museum and they're staring at the
What statue?
the
wooden
devil's
demon.
They're staring at that. They're staring at Annabelle, the Raggedy Ann Doll. They're poking the glass. They're touching things. They're
tapping on the glass. Hey, I heard you were scary. You don't look so scary.
Pretty much.
So what happened to them later?
So within the following week, within 1 week,
the
young lady was driving her car to a remote area, a wooded area. And guess what happened?
Welcome to the journey beyond the Meatsuit.
Welcome, everybody, to Beyond the Meatsuit. And I'm your co-host, Firefox.
And I am the other co-host, Salt. It's a pleasure to have you here this evening. Just in case you don't know us, because I bet you don't, we are experiencers. We are contactees. We research the paranormal, things like Bigfoot, aliens, UFO activity. What else? Ghosts.
Just in the last 15 years that I've lived here in Sedona, I've seen 3 spaceships close up, 2 alien encounters, and ongoing Sasquatch experiences. Of course, I've seen a lot of lights in the sky that were not satellites or shooting stars. And of course, I've taken a lot of pictures in the last 15 years of things that were orbs, strange lights, portals, anomalies, strange creatures. Of course, that'll all come out in our future episodes.
Ditto for me as well. But tonight, being that we are in the season of Halloween and the fall, we are going to start our first episode speaking about hauntings and demons.
Oh, ghosts, demons.
Ghost, demons, hauntings.
Similar subjects in this domain.
So one of my favorite things I'll be talking to you about tonight is the Warrens Museum, the Paranormal Research Center, or the Occult Museum. I just wanted to let them know what happened to my friends after they went to the museum and saw I don't know if the Annabelle doll did it to them, but the satanic idol did it to them. But things didn't go well for them, so stay tuned for that story.
And since this is our first podcast, season 1, episode 1, we have to let you know what we're going to talk about in our future episodes. Before we begin tonight's topic, we can look forward to many other subjects we are going to cover in future episodes. So let's just name off a few, like, of course, Bigfoot, aliens, UFOs.
In the military.
Oh.
Because they're always involved.
Oh, yes. Quantum entanglement,
quantum healing, quantum physics.
Mandela effect,
yes.
Alternate realities and timelines.
Time gain, lost time, missing time, abduction, abductees, hypnoregression in the realm of such things. So we both do hypnoregression, as well as several of our associates do, which we will have on. And we will be sharing some hypnoregression with you, again, more in the realm of not just past lives, because that's great. Don't get me wrong, Dolores Cannon style stuff. But she also, Dolores Cannon, if you're not familiar, her style also works well with abduction and off-world experiences and other kind of multiverse hypnoregression.
Sort of thing. Yeah, it kind of makes you think of the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
But we also have past lives, Akashic records, not what we think it is. Spiritual practices of the indigenous people versus Western science.
What do they think of it?
Oh, yes. Then we also have UN Agenda 21, which is now 2030.
Is it?
They're falling behind schedule. Yes.
Thank God we got more time.
Yeah, we have more time. Geoengineering and weather warfare.
MK Ultra super soldier programs. I love MK Ultra. We're not doing that anymore. It's like, really? Because you've been doing it since, I don't know, forever, and you're still doing it under different names. And we might even talk a little bit about TAG and GATE programs in school.
Okay, you're talking about how they recruit them.
Right. Well,
okay.
With that.
Extraterrestrials, races on Earth and off-world who we have contact with and know about. Technology hoarding of the Cabal and the Mars Germans.
Now, one thing we'll also do in future episodes is showcase some of our photos and or videos. So if you're listening to this on audio, make sure you do join us on other platforms. Of course, we've got YouTube and other what we would consider mainstream platforms, but because our stuff isn't so mainstream, please make sure you join us on Rumble. So Beyond the Meatsuit on Rumble is where you're definitely going to want to tune in to see all the visual extras that we'll have. Plus, you get to see what the heck we look like.
Well, tonight's topic, ghosts, demons, and other supernatural experiences.
Yes. So where should we start?
Well, let's just start with, we did do a search on the internet just to find out where everybody is, despite what our feelings are and what everybody is up to par on this. At least 40% of Americans say ghosts exist.
I think in New England about 70%. That's
well,
where I grew up.
20% of the Americans say in these surveys that they have encountered ghosts. But only a few, less than 10%, believe in such things as werewolves and vampires. Yet almost a third believe in other supernatural beings. So
what's up with
where does that come in?
With the skinwalkers? Everybody believes in skinwalkers.
Oh, well, yes.
Skinwalkers.
Now, Firefox is actually a variation of my soul spirit animal name. I am part Navajo, Arapaho, and South American Indian.
And a little bit of everything else.
Yes.
Not 157, but a times 557. And I'm actually not that diverse with my DNA other than the extra planetary stuff, but I'm half German, half Hungarian for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Well, in Hawaii, they would call me Poi Dog, and anywhere else I'm just Heinz 57.
Yes. Well,
I'm actually Persian, Turkish. I'm also Irish, French.
Yeah, his
Spanish.
Family was frisky.
Filipino. Oh, wait. Don't stop there. Oh, yes.
We need to stop because we need to talk about ghosts.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, where shall we begin?
So I think I'll begin with I'm going to begin with the Warrens Museum.
Yes.
So
start there.
I grew up in Connecticut, and I lived in Trumbull, Monroe, Shelton, Sandy Hook, Newtown. Now, for some reason, there's a lot of strange activity in these areas. It's New England, lots of stuff going on there. And we had some of the first, what you would say would be trend-setting ghost hunters or world-famous ghost hunters, Ed and Lorraine Warren. The movie The Conjuring was made kind of in their light.
Was there other movies?
Well,
based on that?
Well, The Conjuring was basically about Ed and Lorraine Warren and an investigation, and then the Annabelle movie was based on the Raggedy Ann Doll in their demonic museum of hell, which
about Amityville Horror.
Amityville Horror, they did investigate that, but they were not really involved as far as it wasn't about them. It was about the Amityville Horror. But yeah, they did investigate that, and I guess it didn't go so well for them because it was a really dark energy. You know, Ed Warren was one of the first, what you would say would be your common people to be working alongside the Catholic Church doing exorcisms. So back in those days, only the priests could do it. Only the priests could do exorcisms. But
what
Ed
were these days?
These days, well, I don't know. Let's see. I had heard about the Warrens like probably in the 80s, but they've been doing it for a very long time. So I don't know when. You know, I don't know.
You went to the.
I do, but you know, I don't.
What year was that?
I don't do dates. I can get dates. I don't do dates.
That's right.
But yeah, I don't do dates. What year? I don't know. Ed and Lorraine are deceased now, but I can tell you my experiences. Just don't ask me any.
Well, at least you can tell them what years you experienced.
All right.
Them.
So when I went to the Warrens Museum the first time I was probably just coming out of high school, going into college. So that would have been the late 80s, early 90s, right in there. I don't know the exact year. And I was very excited to be able to go to this dinner presentation where they showed us some footage of different things. They showed us a footage of an exorcism with a guy speaking in Latin, backwards Latin, with black goo coming out of his ears and his nose. It was pretty wild. They also showed us the...
Is this something we can look on the internet?
I doubt you can, but because recently I found somebody that said the Warrens lied about the white lady, the ghost. And they're like, well, we proved they lied because somebody asked them for footage and they said no. I'm like, that's funny. You could ask me for footage and you know what I'll say? No. It's my footage. When I want to release it,
Yeah.
I'll release it. We've got a friend who has a picture of a skinwalker. I hope he'll let us share that on the show. He may or may not. When you have footage like that, sometimes he's sick. So the White Lady of Monroe, there's also one in Easton as well. These are common stories that we know, we've seen. And yeah, so there's one I also investigated on the teeth. I'm going to talk about the boar's teeth. That one I couldn't find a shred of evidence. And I was there and I saw those boar's teeth. And I'm going to talk about those too. So let's go back in time.
Well,
let's say 1990.
Myself.
Well, hold on there.
No, okay, go ahead. 1990.
So let's say 1990. So I go to this dinner presentation with the Warrens, and then afterwards we get to go to their occult museum, or the New England Paranormal Research Center, or as I call it,
Is that at their house?
It's at their house.
And it was like an underground level.
But it's so creepy.
Oh,
so you go to their
like
house.
Military.
You go to their house,
Underground military.
and on that instance, we actually went from the outside in. They had like apple cider, powdered donuts, and inside Satan and the demonic doll. Very, very Halloween. The second time I went, we entered through their house. So I'll talk about the description of how you enter if you were to go through their house. So you enter the front door. They welcome you in. You go downstairs. Downstairs, they have this meeting room. And this meeting room is...
That's it. They got you in there.
That's it.
Did they lock the door after they let you in?
So for those of you that are listening, I just took the key and threw it over my shoulder after I locked the door. So yeah, you go down in this basement area where there's a table, like where they have meetings or do seances.
Yeah.
And they shared information with us. Oh wait, that's the second visit. The first visit. Wait. Back in time. Second visit. First.
Too much information at once.
First visit. So we exit from the outside, and we go inside, and they're like, absolutely do not touch anything, because if you touch it, you might die. And that's pretty much the warning. Touch it, you're probably going to die. You're probably going to end up in a mental institution. You're probably going to have, actual physical scratches with blood coming out. You might end up crazy for the rest of your life. So specifically, they warned us about not touching the satanic idol that was super creepy in the corner. You could actually see the shadow of it when you're outside, like this creepy demonic shadow of, let's say, a devil type idol. And then the Raggedy Ann Doll, the infamous Annabelle.
Psychologically,
it's pretty much.
Psychologically, no. If you say, don't touch that, people go, oh, I can touch it.
Don't press the button. Don't touch the...
So it's like, if you don't want anybody to do anything, you tell them, don't do that.
So, and yeah, we'll share pictures, positively. do not touch the Raggedy Ann Doll. I'm going to share pictures. So, we go inside the museum, and they're like, don't touch anything because people have gone crazy. They've died, blah, blah, blah. And they give us a full warning. I didn't touch anything. I didn't die. But I can tell you what, I am empathic. I'm intuitive. Back then, I was very young, so I didn't have the beautiful energy to protect me. I didn't know how to do such things. So I visited the museum, and I pretty much never wanted to go back there.
So it was bad.
It was bad.
Bad. If there was a button that said bad, you would hit bad.
Cool. So I'm like, why do these people do this? So then several years later, after I worked at a company with some friends of mine, they were visiting Monroe, and they said, would you like to hang out with us? I said, sure. And they said, great, we're going to the Warrens. We paid Ed Warren money, and we're going to go talk to Ed and go see his demonic museum. And I was like, heck no. I've been there and I've seen it. Now, today I would go there hands down, but back then I was like, no, thank you. And they said, don't you want to hang out with us? Come on, chicken. Chicken. And I was like, all right. So we then go the second time, and we go to their house, this time down the stairs, down to the meeting room, where Ed alone talks to us about several different things and stories. What's wild is, you know what else he talked about?
I have no idea.
9/11.
Oh, okay.
So before 9/11 occurred, they were having meetings in secret with the Catholic Church, with the priests, with other people in their society. And they had this idea that this big event was going to occur, and that if you were not underground, you might die. And the devil's face would be in the smoke. And that's how you'll know. And they believed it was going to be an attack on New York City, but they didn't know when and where. And they were trying to figure that out. Now, I'm going to post a picture. If y'all remember 9/11, afterwards, there was a famous photograph in the newspaper where there were the trade towers with the smoke, and it had the face of the demon. Now, I would have thought...
I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
I would have thought it would have been a bunch of BS, but Ed talked about it several years before. And I was like, yes, okay, conspiracy, crazy talk, whatever. But no, they were accurate. Now, uh, then let's talk about my friends. So I had a couple of, it was a group of us from work. It's like a workout, let's go see the
How
demon.
many?
Oh, let's say
I know the two that
three, maybe
stayed there.
maybe seven.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
big group.
Yeah, more than 5, less
Mhm.
than 10.
Yeah.
So maybe 7 of us. And so we went from this room into the museum. And before we went in there, Ed was saying, oh, we got to hurry up because around 9 o'clock, the demons get real riled up and they're going to get mad and they're going to attack you and they're going to possess you. So we better get going. So one of my friends, a young man, was like, yeah, Monday Night Football. Ed wants to go watch football. Nudge, nudge, nudge. And I was like, stop. So throughout this,
this is a recurring theme in a lot of the horror movies.
yeah, basically,
Of course, the horror movies are fiction, but this is the real thing.
Well, let's talk about that Annabelle doll. So not only were my friends pushing at this reality throughout Ed's presentation, and I'm like, that's so disrespectful. You're gonna get it.
Of course, looking at the Annabelle doll, the real one,
it doesn't. It's
you would
scary.
never know this thing could be evil.
Yeah,
because it looked like something you could buy from Toys R Us.
Yeah,
it's the usual,
and it was large.
Raggedy Ann Doll. It was a big one, but it looked like one of those things you just buy from Walmart.
I've got a picture where Lorraine Warren is holding the doll, and you can see just how big it is.
Jeez.
Yeah, because they talked about the nurses when they first got the doll. A mother gave it to her daughter, who was there. She was about 28 years old when she gave it to her as a present, and the 2 ladies were nurses, and all of a sudden the doll became possessed. And one day they were sitting there at the breakfast table, and the doll, which has these like little, nubby doll hands, put the hands on the table, like, hello, I'm here to talk to you. Oh, it must be a nice ghost, and it must be something that wants to communicate. So they brought a paranormal researcher, a medium, supposedly in, who decided that it was the spirit of a young girl who had died in a car accident outside of the building. And that's what
building?
Where their apartment building where they lived. So the 2 nurses lived in this apartment building.
Okay.
And they said, the medium said this girl, her spirit got from her into this doll. And so the women are like, oh, that's not so bad. We'll hang out with the doll. But then there were stories of the doll where one of the ladies, it could have been a relative, a friend, a boyfriend, he was sleeping in their home, in their apartment, and he had this dream that the Raggedy Ann doll crawled up and was like strangling with her little buttons. And
imagine being strangled by a toy.
So he kind of freaked out. And he woke up and he was like hot and sweaty and panicking. And then
the doll was just
sitting there. And then he was like, he picked it up. He said, I'm not afraid of you. You're not real. And he like threw her. And then she was sitting there inanimated, not moving. But all of a sudden he got scratches across, like cuts through his t-shirt that bled out through his t-shirt.
Woo!
So that's Annabelle. Now he also.
Yeah, but the Annabelle in the movie,
she will
in the movie is different from what it looks like.
Yeah, no. Right now we're working on a webcam because we have had interference after interference after interference after interference trying to get this episode launched. And this isn't even like deep down the rabbit hole. This is.
I know we haven't even gone where we want to go.
So much interference. So, anyways, let's talk about the priest. So Ed and Lorraine took the doll away. They were called in and they're like, yeah, that lady's wrong. It's a demon. It's not a little girl. And as they were driving home, their car was stalling. It was sputtering and they were just praying the whole way home. And they decided that they should eventually lock this doll away. Now, this is the short version, but leaving out some details because I know you can find this stuff online, but there was a priest. And the priest came in to help bless the doll and whatever. And he was like, I'm not afraid of the doll. God's stronger than the doll, this and that. And he was, again, kind of pushing the edges of this again. I call it
I can see the demon accepting that as a challenge.
Yeah, so she did accept that as a challenge, and he was driving home. He went, and Ed's like, yeah, the God is stronger than the than the demons, but you're not. Ed said that. So again, Ed worked with the Catholic Church. For those of you that did not know Ed, he was good at exorcisms. He wasn't afraid of anything. He grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is a tough neighborhood, and Lorraine was a very, very strong medium. She was more vulnerable to psychic attack and energy and feeling things, but Ed was tough. So anyways, so this priest, while he was driving home, got a funny feeling. He looked in his rearview mirror and he saw the face of Annabelle. He saw the doll in his seat and he crashed. It's funny now because he didn't die, but he crashed. I think he crashed into a tree. So he kind of,
Wow.
yeah, so he learned his lesson. And again, I'm not sure that's what happened to my friends. It was the Annabelle doll or the satanic doll. Now, the satanic doll, I'm going to show you pictures of that for those of you that are online.
Was a satanic doll?
Well, yeah.
Or is it the satanic
idol?
statue?
The idol.
Okay, so you're talking about the satanic
Idol.
wooden
idol.
statue.
So lovingly hand carved, polished, painted with some big creepy eyes. It said if you stare into the eyes of this thing, you can be possessed, you can have psychic attacks, you can go crazy, you can die. Same kind of idea as the other one. There's a young man.
Isn't there everything in
Everything in that museum seemed to have the same thing. Touch it, you die. If you touch it, it sounds kind of like the movie The Croods.
Or if you stare at it,
you
die.
If you guys saw The Croods, maybe you go outside the cave, you die. You go do this, you die. Same thing. Don't touch it. You die. So this doll, this idol, this wooden idol, I'm showing a picture now for those of you that are on video. This idol was definitely tall and creepy, and this young man was out bow hunting in Newtown, Connecticut. And, I know people are like, oh, Newtown's so innocent. Newtown's so innocent. I was like, okay, we had the satanic idol. We had the murder of a kid where the high school kids beat him to death. Yeah, Newtown is not. And then later on, we had the, the Sandy Hook shooting as well. I'm like, Newtown was portrayed as this nice town, and it is. But, you got some crazy people out there doing some crazy things. So this bow hunter stumbles across this large wooden idol that looks demonic or satanic, and he kind of freaks out. And he kind of gets scared. Now, I know Firefox is trying to calm our little coy dog over there down from crying. So if you hear that, that is
our puppy.
That's our puppy dog.
That's our puppy.
All right. So anyway,
Still a puppy.
So he gets this view of this thing. He feels really scared, and he feels like he's being watched. So he starts to leave, and then a man, all dressed in black, white hair, white beard, just starts walking right alongside. And the kid's too afraid to look at him. He's just a young kid, young man. And he goes, well, I had thoughts of taking my bow and shoot him because he goes, I see a satanic doll. This guy's creeping me out. So the guy left, and he goes, what do I do? And he called Ed and Lorraine, and they went and got that statue. Now, Lorraine, they got that statue. They put it in their museum. Lorraine had a psychic attack, either from the statue or from the man. Because Ed said he knew exactly who the man was with the white hair and the white beard. He was a satanic, a Satanist, I guess, practicing the dark arts. And he's like, I don't like him, So Ed's the light, he's the dark. And anyways, so Lorraine ended up on the ground one day. They were going to go and do something. Ed was like, let me just finish up with the car. Lorraine was wearing the plants. Next thing you know, she's down on the ground, kind of like hunched over in fetal position, kind of incoherent. Now, she had some kind of an attack and ended up in the hospital for 3 days, where she was basically incoherent, very sick, and they didn't know what happened to her. And they did every test.
With anything. Yeah.
They did every test in the world.
Can't explain it.
And then she came out just fine. Now, Ed said, I know it was the man. I know he put a curse on Lorraine. And
does he know why the curse was made?
Well, he was mad for,
for intrusion and taking the statue.
his precious idol.
Yeah.
So yes, and Ed said he won't attack me. I'm too strong. He knows that I can counterattack even stronger. And I gotta agree, when you're working with demonic forces, things that are very dark, now that we are much more experienced, yeah, if you are true in your light, 100% solid in your belief, which, Ed was, we have a slightly different practice than Ed, but yeah, you can protect yourself. So fast forward, let's see. We go into the museum. We get to see the doll. We get to see the satanic idol. Now, this is the second time I've been there.
I'm so cute.
I know. Irma, would you like to play with me? So this whole museum's full of things that they got from investigations. Now, the one I still remember are the boar's teeth. And I remember the story.
Mhm.
This story, I could not find it on Google, and it is a true story. Stratford,
When did it happen?
again,
Estimation.
let's 60s, 70s, 80s.
Mhm.
It was before this time. So,
Okay.
so this was at this time. This was the mid 90s. I think I heard the boar's head, boar's head too.
Or
I'm
the
hungry.
boar.
The boar's teeth story. I think I heard that on my first visit, which would have been in 90, and this was not a new story. So let's say it could have been in the 70s,
It could have been
60s,
a
80s.
lot older. Don't even try to guess.
Yes, so stop asking me. Why does he ask me? So anyhow, his teeth were, an inch and a half to 2 inches long, and there were at least 5 of them. I don't remember how many there were. They were removed from a man's skull at Bridgeport Hospital. So the story goes that this man was being attacked by an invisible entity, and he's screaming, "Get it off me, get it off of me," and he's struggling. Of course, his family just thinks he's insane, but yet he's bleeding from the head, so they believe now he's attacking himself and self-inflicting wounds. However, he saw this creature, and it was some type of a boar-like creature just crunching down on his skull.
Did anybody else see?
Yeah, they say in the story somebody else did see it.
Okay, so someone else saw.
So basically, it wasn't there, but then you get this, like, it must be slipping into another reality, and now you can see it. So they took the man to the hospital, thinking he was insane, and they removed those boar's teeth, and the warrants had
At least 3 of them.
Yeah, there was more than,
At least 3. There's probably more.
yeah, there was quite a few taken out, and they used to have them just sitting right there.
Yeah,
Right-
out in the
right
open, not
at the table.
protected like the other.
They didn't say do not touch, but, I think the idea is if you touch something, you die anyway. So I tried to research that, couldn't find it. So what happened to my friends? So we're in the museum, and they're staring at the statue. And they're
What
staring-
statue?
the
wooden
the devil.
demon.
They're staring at that. They're
Okay.
staring at Annabelle, the Raggedy Ann Doll. They're poking the glass. They're touching things. They're
They're
touching
tapping on the glass. Hey, I heard you were scary. You don't look so scary.
pretty much. So because I'm the most intuitive person back then, again, we were all so young. We're just kids. Like, stop it. And my friends are like, oh, they're touching it. So they're kind of like some people that are scared,
Well,
like hanging.
What did Ed do? Like,
And it was just, he's talking, he's giving the toy, he's not paying attention.
oh,
So you're supposed to, if you touch something, you're supposed to tell Ed so he can clear you.
they
And
didn't bother. They just did it anyway.
Yeah.
While Ted is busy talking to everybody else about important things.
important things. So then
Hmm.
all of a sudden I sit there and I go, and I perk up. I go, and I look around like the crazy eyes, and Ed's across the room, all the way across. I'm actually closest to the exit, to the door, and it's because I'm the most in tune to this. And Ed's all the way on the other side, and he goes, "You feel that?" I go, "Yep," and I'm gone. And I was
She
out.
left.
I was out that door. Now you have to understand, between this museum to the meeting room, there's this like long hallway. It's this creepy hallway still. It's got its artwork. It's got some scary stuff in it. So I'm like doing this brisk exit to the point where I almost start running. And my friends are like, "Where you going?" I'm like, "See you later." And I'm like, "See you later, suckers." Self-preservation, baby. So I'm running down the hall, just about running, and I've got a trail of people behind me, -2. So Ed's in there with those 2 troublemakers. So that young man and that young female were the last to leave, and Ed said, "Well, we better get out of here. I don't think it's a good idea to stay in here." So we went out, and we went out to the bar. We talked, and they BS, and they're like, "Oh, you felt something," and I was scared. I ain't nothing. So we had that whole conversation at the bar.
So the 2 people that stayed were the most resistant to all the warning.
Yes, and they were the most
So-
crap talking at the bar.
So what happened to them later?
So within the following week, within 1 week,
Within 1 week,
the young lady was driving her car in a remote area, a wooded area, and guess what happened? Well, she didn't see any doll in the back of her mirror, but that steering wheel, she said, was pulled, and she couldn't hold on to it. And it was pulled so strong, and it pulled her right off the road into a ditch and hit a tree. And she was injured, but not severely, thank God. It was just a warning. She could have been killed, but she was only injured. The young man.
yeah, but the other guy, yeah,
So the young man.
happened to him.
So he was at a stop sign, 4-way stop sign, nobody around, not a single person. Went out of the blue, boom. And it was an older woman, he said, just from nowhere, just rammed into him. Now he ended up going to the hospital, Did he die? No, he did not. He did not die. Uh, what's kind of nice though, they ended up dating later.
Ah.
So it's always a
So out of the bad came something good.
yeah. And I was,
But it doesn't always happen.
no, and I don't know if they got married or they
Oh.
probably didn't. But anyway, so that's my Warren story. Firefox.
Mm.
Do you have any questions about the Warrens?
No, I don't. But it sounds like a lot of stuff I grew up with in Hawaii. Seems like I learned more about Hawaii after I left than I did when I was growing up there. I left when I was 18. As soon as I turned 18, I joined the service. But later on, I read these books called Obake stories. Yeah, it's written by Glenn Grant. Obake is a Japanese word that means goat. And in it was about Glenn Grant and his investigations and all the ghost stories in Hawaii. Of course, I've heard all these stories growing up, but to see it written down in such detail was, of course, interesting. I had to read it. And of course, I recognized a lot of the stories, and one was about Waimea Falls.
Why? Why Waimea?
Why Waimea? Well, I used to go there and dive off the rock a lot. And I used to go to the falls too.
Is this a Japanese ghost story? Obake
No,
is a Japanese word.
No, Obake is just the Japanese word for ghost. A collection of stories from everyone, either first-hand accounts or official accounts like police reports.
Those are all.
Oh, and this was a police report. Now, it was on Waimea Falls. Now, there were 3 servicemen. Didn't think it said what base they were from. It was either Schofield or somewhere else. But these 3 were at Waimea Falls. And as one of them was about to dive, he slipped, hit his head on the rock, and fell into the water.
Oh, yeah, reenacting it.
Well, his 2 friends dived in to save him, and they couldn't find him. They looked and they searched, and they couldn't find him. So eventually, they called the police. And the police and the firefighters arrived, and they dragged nets across the water to find the body. But it was getting dark. So they said, okay, we'll continue the search the next day. Well, his 2 friends said, no, we'll stay, just in case. I don't know why, after that much time. Well, anyway, they stayed. Police and firefighters left. They came back at the crack of dawn. And of course, as they're climbing up towards White Falls, his 2 friends were running back down, white as sheets. They're going, of course, they stopped and says, what's wrong? They go, well, we're up there. There's this thing that came in and out of the water and was growling. We couldn't run away because it was too dark. Yeah, it was
That's scary?
Yeah, well.
That's pretty scary.
No, you're not scary. Okay, well, it was too dark. They couldn't run anywhere. So they stayed there just watching and listening to this thing going in and out of the water going, rah. Well, well, they said, okay. So they let them go. The firefighters and police went back up to continue searching for the body. Now, the policeman who wrote the report, now he was standing on a high point. We saw the body. So he was trying to direct the people dragging the nets. The body's over there. The body's over there. And so they finally brought the body up. And that's when the fun started. Then all of a sudden, the calm water started to geyser up. Scared the bejesus out of everybody. They all ran. And all the water came out like a tidal wave and followed them down the hill.
That's awesome.
But later on.
I mean, that's awesome now for us that are listening.
Well, yeah, after the fact. But when they researched it, they found out that that area was actually where the Hawaiians actually performed human sacrifices. Now, I didn't know the Hawaiians did that till I read that part.
Yeah. Wow.
And they said that when they performed the human sacrifice, the body had to stay in the water for at least 3 days.
Wow.
And they brought up the body after 1 day.
It's kind of creepy and weird.
And since
3 days. It's got to be 3 days. It must
if
be.
not, they said, this is no good. We'll get rid of the water. So that's why all the water came out.
That's crazy.
And that's what they surmised what happened.
Wow. That's pretty crazy.
Of course, these subjects are only the beginning of the exploration and exposing of the reality of the world we live in.
Because people understand ghosts and demons.
Yeah.
Harder for them to understand Bigfoot and aliens.
Why we have ghosts.
Right. So we're going to get into all that. But right now,
we would get into
fun storytelling. So tell me another Hawaiian story. Don't you have one about the something marchers?
Oh, yes, the night marchers. That was brought back to my attention when I actually saw, I haven't seen the movie, but I saw
that trailer,
the previews, the trailer, and I was surprised to see Bradley Cooper and Emma Stone in a movie called Aloha.
I believe it was.
Yeah, I think it was Aloha. During one of the clips, the highlights of the movie was that they were talking. All of a sudden, God, the night marchers, don't look. So they're not looking and they're still talking.
It's like the Skinwalker. Don't look.
And I would go, they actually put that in a movie? I said, I'm surprised they did that.
Don't look at the night marchers. Don't look at the Skinwalker. Don't look at the demon idol.
Yeah.
Look at Raggedy Ann.
Yeah. Don't look.
Don't watch this video.
Don't
Do watch this video.
Go.
When you watch this video, watch it.
I'm looking. I'm not looking. Well, anyway.
I'm sorry. So the night marchers.
Yeah, the night marchers. That was a time of old Hawaii where, it was very feudal. So you had one ali'i against the other, sending their armies across the volcanic fields in order to attack each other. Now, the problem with the volcanic fields is every once in a while, you could never predict it, but there'd be a roll of fog. It was what we call fog, which is very poisonous, high in sulfur. So if this fog ever came over and there happened to be an army marching to attack their enemy, all of a sudden the fog would just cover them and they would die instantly. And now we have what's called night marchers. These are those armies that were killed all at once while they're marching to war. If you look at them, they will beat you to an inch of your life. But in order to avoid that, you just have to look away until they pass.
I thought I heard if you gave them some pineapple and Spam, they would.
Now, she only says that because
he's from Hawaii.
I'm from Hawaii, and I've told her about that. That has nothing to do with this.
I had to.
Spam is just a World War II thing.
And they make sushi with Spam.
Yes, it's called musubi.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? So so these night marchers, did you say they would beat you
to an inch of your life?
Did you say that or no?
Yes, I did.
No, I guess I.
She's sitting right next to me. And
what's funny is, you're like dumb blonde, and it is really funny because one time we were doing some paranormal. I know we were doing a paranormal research, and you get your spirit box. I've got an app I use called Necrometer, and sometimes the spirits will say flake, dumb blonde. I'm like,
the joke's on you. She's not a true blonde.
Real blonde. Joke's on you, ghosty. That's an awesome story. So let's see. We can also talk about the Black Beast. We could talk about the Adventures in Babysitting, the demonic version with the Basement of Torture.
That's yours.
So you wanted me to do that, and then you'll do your Black Beast, or?
Yeah, go ahead and do yours.
All right.
Because I talked about Hawaii for a while.
All right. So once again, back in New England. By the way, yes, I grew up in Connecticut, and then I moved to Florida, and then now I do live here in
But this
Sedona.
happened when you were in Connecticut.
I do live here in Sedona. So back when I was, I don't know, 13, there was an ad. This is like a movie, I swear to God. Except I didn't die. Nobody died.
Yeah, nobody died.
So we're still here, thank God. So there was like a little postcard posted on this bulletin board at the country club my parents belonged to. It said, babysitter wanted, Shelton, Connecticut. I think it was Shelton. Yeah, it was in White Hills. So it was up near Monroe. Again, Monroe, Shelton, Newtown, this little evil corner of death. Because a lot of people died there throughout history. A lot of people died. So who died? Revolutionary War, the natives, the early settlers, and God knows, because there's also stories of New England having history that goes way, way back before we even know about. And
The Indians.
there's stuff
Before even the Indians.
No, there's stuff. There's like ley lines and vortex spots that have stones that resemble like stuff over I want to say in Ireland or Scotland that goes way back. So there's actually some stuff there that is now being discovered. Anyways, so babysitter wanted. My mom's like, "Oh, I got a job for you." I was like, "Great, $2.50 an hour, or whatever you get back then, because you didn't make much money." And I'm wondering why these people in the town that it would take you to get from my parents' house to their house a good 20 minutes. Like there's no kids.
By walking, biking,
No, by driving.
by driving.
So it was a good 20 minute, maybe.
So your mom drove you.
No, they would, I think, come pick me up.
Oh, they picked you.
So let's say 20 minutes to 20, a solid 20 minutes to get to the house, right? Which is a ridiculous amount of time when there's children in the other town. Or maybe they're all dead in the basement. I don't know. Because that's what it sounded like. So that's where all my other babysitters went. I made it out alive. So I go to their home and I babysit several times for Bobby and Jimmy. Bobby's younger, Jimmy's older. So let's say they're 3 and 5, something like that. And as little brothers do, they pick on each other. Now, these parents were young. They were probably in their 30s. So they would go out with their friends, go out drinking, come back a little tipsy. And I remember one evening, on another night, there's just all this alcohol left out in the garage because they had this big party. And here I am in junior high going, very tempting. Little peach schnapps. What's sweet? What can I have? And I go out in the garage and I'm looking, and all of a sudden I hear a blood-curdling scream of a woman nearby. Jesus Christ. No alcohol for me. I'm going right back in the house. Now, by the way, this was
Where did it come from?
So there's a graveyard that was on that street.
So you believe it came from the grave?
I do believe, yeah, because there were very few houses on that street. So it was very remote, this street. It was a paved road. This house, I would say, guessing, might have been built around 1950, 1960s. It was a simple ranch-style house, not your big Amityville Horror, New England kind of house. It was like, it's just our old ranch house. Now, God knows what it was built on. But there was a cemetery nearby. My cousin, I want to say Karen, was the one that told me they'd hang out there. Not at the cemetery, but they had friends and they would hear screaming and all kinds of strange sounds out at night. And they were terrified to go out. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I was also terrified to go down in that basement. So the parents were like, oh, you go in the basement, have some soda pop in the fridge. Anytime you want, go down. I'm like, I ain't ever going in that basement. So while it was a finished basement, it had this really awful vibe. And
something
I could feel that I didn't want to go in that basement. But the kids did. Bobby and Jimmy.
They didn't feel.
Yeah, I don't know why. But
yeah, usually kids are more,
well,
more attuned to that stuff.
They would go down there and play indoor soccer, kicking the ball and things like that on a range.
Unless they're like Damien.
Well, that's why I wonder if Jimmy got a little bit possessed that night. I don't know. He seemed fairly normal.
So what happened that night?
So that night, as the children were going to bed, there were bunk beds, and Bobby, the younger one, on the bottom, I believe. He slept on the bottom, Jimmy was on the top. And I just hear, and I'm still awake, nothing possessed yet happened, nothing demonic. So Jimmy's just banging on the wall. He's kicking
with his feet. He's kicking the wall with his feet.
And Bobby's just crying, and he's wailing,
yeah.
Jimmy, stop, I'm tired, I'm going to bed. And Jimmy's going, and he was actually in a sense torturing his little brother. He was laughing hard. So was a little demon in there? Maybe, because Jimmy was just not normally that mean. So he's kicking, Bobby's crying. I'm like, listen, shut up, you two. I'm gonna tell your parents, and you're gonna get in big trouble, because that's about all you can do.
It's the limit of
that's the limit of your authority as a 13-year-old in a possessed home. And so I go to sleep. They're quiet, I fall asleep to SNL, Saturday Night Live, and then I wake up, and I hear banging, and I hear crying. So I go, oh,
So one of the kids are at it again.
one of the kids, and I'm going to have to yell at him. So for those of you that watch it, I'm always very theatric visually, so I turn my head behind me, because behind me, I'm on the couch, laying on the couch, TV's in front of me, hallway behind me,
Leading to the kids'
leading to the kids' room, and then between me and the kids' bedroom is the basement. So I
door to the basement.
the door to the basement. So I turn my head around and yell at these two little troublemakers, and I see the basement door wide open.
And it was closed.
And it was closed.
Oh.
And there was a light. And the light was coming out of the basement.
But the light was bright.
It sure was. It was very bright. It wasn't just like a little light switch. It was very bright. And then I realized that's not the sound of the kids in the bedroom. Somebody, Bobby and Jimmy, maybe other kids, it sounded like the crying and the banging was coming from the basement. And it was so loud. It was so loud, honestly, it sounded like thousands, hundreds, thousands of children being tortured, murdered, beaten. It was violent. The house was shaking. I'm talking the entire house. It was like boom, boom, and the whole house was shaking, like almost like somebody was hitting a big, giant metal furnace or something. It was just this metal pounding, banging. The house was shaking. I could just hear the sounds of tortured souls screaming in agony. I go,
And a bright light.
and I'm going,
Basement.
and I start like sinking down into the couch. Because, if you sink down to the couch deep enough and cover your face, you'll be fine. So I start to formulate the plan. The plan is, okay, leave, run out of the house. The kids are probably dead. There's nothing I can do. Because not only Bobby and Jimmy are dead, but there's a whole bunch of kids down there getting murdered. So I'm going to run out of the house. Wait, there's not much out here. There's trees.
That's the cemetery.
You got the cemetery with the screaming lady. You've got a very few sparse homes that I have no idea who live there. Maybe the people that are killing the children, maybe they just came over to kill the children.
And you just happen to be in the way.
So I'm like, I can't run away. I'm like, well, I'll go call the cops. I'm like, well, yeah, no, they're not going to buy into that. And if they do, and if the children are dead, I'm in big trouble because I'm the babysitter.
Yep.
But I look, there's no blood on my hands. I didn't kill him. That's good. So what do I do? I don't know. So I sit there and I sink further and further down. And I probably prayed. I bet you I prayed. I bet.
So how much time passed before you got up?
It seemed like forever because I was frozen in fear. It might have just been a few minutes, but honestly, it felt like
A lot longer.
It felt like forever because I thought everybody was dead. And I would also be dead shortly. So then I heard the pitter-patter of little feet go from the top step down. I heard thunk, 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 go right down.
So something went down.
Something went down. And honestly, I was like, that's not a child. But it didn't quite sound like an adult. So, looking back then, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was an adult. Because it was too loud to be a child, but now looking back, I'm like, no, that wasn't in between. It wasn't an adult or a child.
Okay.
So then silence. So the footsteps down, complete silence. No shaking, no crying. So now what do?
What happened after that?
What happened after
Was the
that?
light still bright?
The light was still on, but just like a regular light, and the door was open.
The light dimmed.
It was just like a regular, what
it was before.
If that was just like a regular light bulb, let's say.
Because it was very bright before.
Yeah. It was just like a regular, the lights on.
Okay,
so
now it's a dimmer light.
Mm-hmm.
It looks more natural.
Mm-hmm. And I'm still shitting my pants.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still considering leaving the house and running down the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually get up and I go towards the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, no, I'll die. If I go out there, I'm probably going to die. So I go back. I pick up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not going to call the cops.
Okay, so after that,
I go down the hall because I did kind of like I was going to leave the kids. Sorry. So I went down the hall. I saw the door, shut the door, ran by that,
to the kids' bedroom.
And guess what? Sound asleep.
Kids were asleep. They were breathing.
They were breathing. Well, they seemed to be breathing. I didn't see any bloody footprints. Yeah, it was a wild, wild night. And I didn't talk about that for years.
Well, what did you did after you knew the kids were fine?
Oh, so basically, I sat there like this on the couch going, I hope I don't effing die. I don't know what's going on. I hope the parents come home very soon. The parents came home a little bit tipsy, and they just sat there and they were talking to me. And I think their friends were with them. And again, you got a bunch of adults that are drunk, and you're just
So
a kid.
basically, you said,
So they're
"Okay,
like,
everything's fine.
everything's
Come out
fine.
here. Bye."
Take me home. So the drunk
Oh,
parents.
they took you.
So, oh yeah, they would drive me home. So they go out drinking and then drive me home.
Oh, yeah, drink and drive you home. Yeah.
So you know what? You know, it's the 80s. Yeah. So so they drive me home, and then basically I'm like, I didn't tell a soul for several years because I was so terrified. And to be honest, to this day, that experience was probably one of the most extreme, most terrifying. And I've had some pretty terrifying experiences, but that was the most extreme. So they called me up to babysit. You know what I said?
No.
I said no.
Yeah.
No. My
Pretty
mom
much
was like,
that.
why? You can make some extra money. And I was like, I'm not going. And she's like, they're nice people. I was like, no. And she's like, why? So they repeatedly would call me. And they'd call me and call me. I would say, no, no, no. My mom's like, why? I was like, I'm not doing it. And that's it. So then finally, the phone call came in, and they said, look, they want you to babysit again. And it's not going to be in their home. It's going to be in their grandparents' house. And it's a brand new house. I was like, oh,
See,
oh.
did they know about this the whole time?
Bet your
And then they finally realized that you won't do it because
well,
of what they
yeah.
already knew?
Thing is, it's like you're paying me how much an hour? You better raise it at least from $2.50, at least $3 if I'm dealing with Satan and
Yeah.
children sacrifice.
Did they?
No, I don't know. So yeah, so that's my crazy.
You weren't a good negotiator.
Actually, I talked to the Warrens about that,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Oh, that's like the movie, some kind of House on Haunted Hill or something like that. Some old movie. They said the whole house was shaking.
And it sounds like Friday the 13th.
It was just they said that sounds like a classic haunting where the house is basically possessed.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm like, yeah. So that's my story. Now we'll go over to the Black Beast for 500.
Now we're telling you our own experiences, but in the end, what it is these subjects are only beginning of the exploration and exposing of the reality of the world we now live in. Now, there's things we can do to protect ourselves, which we will explain later.
But the short version, just use white light.
White light.
Or if you're religious, use that. Whatever. If you're
fierce and fearless love, the Christ light, whatever your beliefs are.
But we'll talk about that.
But we'll talk about that later. But for now, we're going to explain some of the things we experienced that brought us to this.
Yeah, because at this age, I would have went right down in that basement. I would have been like, no. I mean, I would exercise those little turkeys right through a wormhole.
That's one thing we do know is the things we're afraid of before, we can now defend and have an offense as well as a defense against these same situations.
But in your situation, you didn't use love because you do.
Oh, well,
no.
Mine, I guess I was just lucky.
8 years old?
Now, I must have been about 8 years old when this happened. I was asleep. I had to be in the room. I woke up and I noticed I couldn't move. Just move. Started to scare me because I could move. Then I tried to cry out for my mother. I go, Mom. I was doing everything. I was moving my mouth, my tongue. It felt like some noise should have come out, but nothing came out. It was like a mute. I was going, nothing came out. And that made me more scared. And then all of a sudden, I kind of died off. When I woke up again, saw the shadow walking around my bed. And more so, I tried to move and tried to scream out for my mom, and nothing came out. I couldn't move. And that made me even more fearful.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like it just nodded off.
Like you blacked out, right?
I blacked out. And when I woke up again, this black shadow that had been walking by my bed was actually on me. And I felt like it was sucking the life force out of me or my blood. That would have worked 50 years ago. But now it's like, anyway, now I was so afraid. But then something switched. I was no longer fearful. I was angry. I said, you are the cause of my fear. I'm going to attack you if I could. And because of my anger, it lessened the paralysis. And I could actually move my arms.
Free will.
Yeah, I was able to move, but very slowly. So inch by inch, the more anger I had, the more I could move. And I said, I'm going to strangle you for making me scared like this. And I actually saw my fingers disappear into that shadowy figure. And I figured, good, I'm going to get to his neck and strangle him. I'll teach him to make me scared. And then all of a sudden, me out. And all of a sudden I woke up. It was broad daylight. I was sweating. My heart was beating fast. And I was going, what the heck just happened? Now, I knew I could beat it because I was angry, not fearful. So I was waiting for it to come back. I had a camera, a flashlight, and everything by my bedside for I don't know how many months after this happened.
You slept with a nightlight too, didn't you?
Yeah,
I slept with a nightlight for, I don't know, forever.
Yeah.
I still do.
But I always had those. Because of what happened to me, I had a flashlight, camera, and I had all that by my bedside. So when it happened again,
You were ready.
I was ready.
And did he show up?
He didn't show up.
No,
he was gone. He didn't show up for he actually showed up. I must have been I think I was in my late 30s.
Sure.
Now, at that time, I've already had more experiences with dream work, a lot of other things. But the thing is, I was very well versed in my dreams than most people. I could control it. So here I was with the girlfriend I was at this time. It was 2003, about 21 years ago. But anyway, here I was. We were sleeping. I had my arm around her. And in this dream, it looked like a food dog, one of those Chinese food dogs, trying to bite my hand. So I was trying to remove my hand, and I'm going, why can't I move my hand? I'm not scared, but I'm just reacting to what I saw. When I couldn't remove my hand, I was going, wait a minute, I can control my dreams. Why would I do this? And then I looked at the food dog. And I said, it's you. And then its eyes went wide too. And then I woke up from my dream and I saw this black shadow dive into the wall. And I go, okay. Well, at that time, now I already know what I could do. See, when this thing feeds on fear.
Yeah, and when you were little, you were...
So when I switched over to anger, I soured the milk. Now, since then, I've talked to more like-minded people who also told me about this, and I could fight it with love. So I already knew this. This is something in my past that I've learned to deal with, and then if it ever happens again, fight it with love. So after that, I said, oh, I got a surprise for you. And so I put out this shield of love around me all the time. And later on, the only thing that happened that involved this creature, which has been described as the Black Beast or the Fourth Horseman, feeds on fear, is, with the shield of love, it won't be able to come even near me. And there was only one other incident where I could actually feel it tapping on the edge of my shield. Like, is it safe to go in? No. And I said, oh, and I felt a tap on my shoulder. I said, yeah, come on in. I'm ready for you now.
Yeah.
And not since this, and this was over 20 years
Wow.
ago.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah.
And, what's interesting too is, when you're a little kid, and your parents, you have these things, I would have things come in my room constantly. I would have these like little shadow creatures. I remember seeing a woman that was like a witch, a man without a face.
Did you ever tell your parents about this?
Yeah. Well,
What they say?
well, for the most part, my parents, my grandmother had many stories from Hungary about ghosts and spirits. So it was perceived like, okay, yeah, there's spirits, there's ghosts. Like the night the man without the face was there, and I woke up the whole neighborhood screaming. So when I had these scary experiences, my parents, I'd be like, can I sleep down on the couch? Because I'd be sleeping. I was little. I would go.
How
sleep.
little?
Well, you're like in grade school.
So you're 5.
So anywhere between I can walk to maybe 6th grade. It's grade school.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be going downstairs and having nightmares. I'm like, there's a witch in my room, there's a demon, there's the devil, there's a ghost, there's an alien, there's a man without a face, whatever, which in my room, because everything seemed to be like, let's go see Salt. Let's see Salt. And, I guess, yeah, sometimes some of us, we just have more of that. And I would go downstairs and I'd say, can I sleep down here with you? And then, of course, I'd ask to sleep if they were going upstairs. Can I sleep with you? But, they're like, you're getting too old. I had a nightlight. It didn't help that my brother, Sean, would do things like hide under my bed.
For hours
waiting.
Just to be able to surprise
my leg. Or I'd be running home from my friend's house. I'm in 5th grade. Our parents let us stay out late. You're running home, and I'm already past where he is, and he starts running behind me. So, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't really help.
So I didn't have that.
So my parents were moderately supportive. They understood.
Better than my parents.
Yeah, they did tell me the same thing your parents told you. They don't watch scary movies. I'm like, I don't need to watch scary movies. My room is scary. I don't need to watch movies.
With me, it was a little different. When I tried to explain what I was experiencing, my mom would just pat me on the head. Oh, you have such a vivid imagination. I go, no, there's something in my room and I can't sleep. And then she would scold me after that. Quit watching scary movies. You don't have such
stuff, right?
And then I would say, no, it's not a scary movie. There's something in my room and I can't see. It's in my room.
And what's wild is kids see so much.
Yeah, we can see it in kids now. Being that we went through it when we were kids.
I tell parents too, when your kids are sharing these things, you should believe them. Night terrors, that's another thing. Night terrors. What are night terrors? Well, I suspect night terrors, if you know what they are. It seems like abductees.
Mm-hmm.
People who have been part of military programs,
there's other
school programs, people who have been abducted. There's a lot of night terrors involved with that. So if your kids have night terrors, that's real and that's scary. And I used to have those,
especially if they're involved with gate or tag,
or other
which has been
like
around
that.
for decades.
Yeah, I think there's new names for these programs.
Oh, they have new names now?
Yeah,
I wouldn't doubt it.
I feel like we should have a tag or gate support. Yeah, it's like MK Ultra. We're not doing that anymore. I'm like, yeah, you are. You're not doing gate or tag anymore. Yeah, you are. So if you don't know what that is, it's a government test that they would do to children, select you, put you in special groups. A lot of us were part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Your special group, but that's another episode.
Okay, so let's do an overview.
Sure, we're going to wrap this up.
We'll wrap it up. This is our first season, our first episode of Beyond the Meatsuit. It's not something that's your imagination, and we have the many stories to back it up. So that's why we're here. We're here to expose the disclosure. The more we expose it, the more we can educate you and tell you not only that it's there, but we can also teach you how to protect yourself against it. There are ways. The government knows this, so we'll talk more about that in our future episodes. Now, what would you like to add?
So the only thing I want to add is, so in our early episodes, because we do have a lot of information of our own stories, of our own experiences, and some photos that we'll share of paranormal things, some nice UFO activity as well. So do the first few episodes where you're really getting to know Salt and Firefox. Now, some people call us Salty Fox or Mr. and Mrs. Fox because I guess you could say we're a bonded couple in some way. And so together, but like Ed and Lorraine, but I like to think new and improved, we're here to share our stories.
Generation.
I know, right? To share our
Third
stories.
generation.
And yeah, there's so many.
That was
There's,
back a long time.
well, there's so many ghost hunters and UFO hunters now, but we are going to have people on our show. We've already had several guests that are ready to come on. But before we bring them on, we just want you to get to know us a little bit more intimately. We have been asked by several people, oh, you guys should write books. You should do this. You should do that. I'm like, that sounds exhausting. We currently right now, we are guides in Sedona.
Tour guides.
Yeah, we're
Jeep tour guide.
So we do mostly the spiritual vortex tours, as well as outer dimension tours.
Which used to be called Orbs, Aliens, and Sasquatch.
Yeah, Orbs, Alien, Bigfoot was the Orbs, Aliens, and Bigfoot.
Oh, Bigfoot, not Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what's funny about those tours? I'm like, why did you stop doing them? It took a long time for us to get the boss, John Bradshaw, to allow us to do these tours again. We'll talk about that. But, some of the original tour guides that were doing these tours, they had no idea what they were getting into.
No, they
They're
didn't.
like, saw an orb. I ain't going out there again. I'm like, you saw an orb? Great.
Yeah.
We
For us,
every
it's like,
night.
it's cool. But for these guys, it was
There was a ship,
oh,
and the
scary.
ship was right above the Jeep. I'm like,
I know. I wish that happened while we were doing this.
so we work for the Bradshaws. We will talk about the Bradshaw Ranch,
Mm-hmm.
and we will share many experiences with you, as well as have our colleagues on the show sharing their experiences with you, and also information that might be helpful to learn from.
Oh.
So I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's
hope
our
you enjoyed
teaser.
Our show. This is just like not even like a toe in the rabbit hole. This is just like a tip of the bunny toe into that rabbit hole, because we are just barely scratching the surface for this Halloween season, and we hope you join us beyond the Meatsuit. We hope you find us on Rumble, and you can watch us on YouTube, where they allow us to put some of our I think this could get on there.
Yeah.
YouTube doesn't like murder and death and all that.
YouTube.
But Rumble is cool with it. Rumble's free speech. It really is.
Rumble is still free speech, so we can talk about
So we'll be
everything
on.
without restriction.
Yeah. So
Or
please join us
without getting
in any platform that you enjoy. We'll try to be out there as much as we can, as well as when we get our we're gonna have a little PDF download book and a video together. So we don't have that yet, where we're gonna have our how to protect yourself and different techniques. So we'll put that on our website in the near future, that you can just give us your email. And it's not like we're going to spam you, but what we want to do is get that email so you get banned on certain platforms, that you'll know where to find us when you're ready to go.
Beyond the Meatsuit.
So thank you again for joining, and let's sign out, and we'll see you later.